different demands do they come to our classrooms with? And this is who they are, and this is what they need. As I said before, they need language skills, definitely. They need grammar and they need vocabulary, but they need so much more than that. They need to be effective users of a language that will allow them to communicate with people from all over the world and in a variety of contexts. So we are moving on from the notion of language learner to the notion of language user, which is definitely broader. Now, something which is equally important, and today I am talking to you on behalf of National Geographic Learning. And the National Geographic Learning, we truly believe in the power of content. We think content provides the context, and we think content is the propeller for language. So what kind of content do we have to bring to our classrooms? And the answer is that we need to bring contemporary topics, topics which are relevant, not only locally, but globally. And this takes us to this word you've got on the screen, glocal. We need to bring glocal topics to our classrooms. And glocal means that the topics that we bring, the content that we bring to the classroom, needs to allow our students to connect personally from their local reality, but at the same time, they will need to have a global perspective. So I'm going to address this topic from the reality I know to be able to learn about this topic from the reality of others. Now, probably you must have heard a lot about 21st century skills. And of course, all these skills I'm going to mention now are absolutely relevant for our children being educated for a world like the world they are living in. Of course, they need to be critical thinkers. Of course, they need to be effective communicators. Of course, they need to be creative when it comes to thinking, when it comes to communicating, when it comes to problem solving. And very importantly, they need collaboration skills, the possibility and the ability of working with others. We are all grown-ups here, and we know working with others is not easy. So they need collaboration skills. Now, I think that the very unexpected situation we are going through this year has proved that these skills are definitely mandatory. But what other skills has lockdown proved to be relevant? Well, they are not mentioned here, but I would like to mention them anyway. Our students need agency, the possibility to own their learning. They need organization skills. They need self-study skills. And of course, they definitely need a passion for learning. And there's one more thing to mention. And the fact that they are living in a world like the one we are living in, and the fact that it is technology driven, has made a concept such as literacy to go plural. That's why we are talking about 21st century literacies. This means that we need to acknowledge, as language teachers we are, that our children have 24/7 access to information presented to them in a variety of formats. And this is not my topic for today, but I'm going to mention it anyway. We cannot say literacy. Literacy has gone plural. Today we are talking about digital literacy, visual literacy, information literacy, of course traditional literacy, but the fact that the concept has gone plural has so many implications for us language teachers. And I don't mean to make you feel overwhelmed. I mean to make us reflect upon who we are teaching and educating. So this brings me, I anticipated today that I was really passionate about the topic I would be presenting, because when talking about encouraging meaningful connections through world exploration in the young learner classroom, I need today to discuss with you the fact that we are so much more than language teachers. As a matter of fact, I have always believed that it's not possible to be just a language teacher. It's not just about our subject matter, it's so much more than that. So my invitation for all of you today is to begin to see ourselves as global citizenship teachers. Teachers who understand what global citizenship education is, and teachers who actually promote it in the classroom. So what is global citizenship then? It's a way of living that recognizes our world as an increasingly complex web of connections. And again, the word connection is here. And it's a world where our choices and our actions may have repercussions for people and communities, locally, nationally, and internationally. So this means that bringing into the classroom global topics is certainly preparing our children for this, for understanding that what I do locally will not remain local, will go bigger. So if we understand what global citizenship is, then this is the profile of the language learner. At least I am absolutely convinced I want to educate. A global citizen is somebody who is aware of the wider world. And of course, it's somebody who has a sense of their own role as a world citizen. I understand my children live in this world, and they will have to get ready for a life and a career in that kind of world. So if I want them to be aware of the wider world, this means that I need to bring the wider world into the classroom. A global citizen is somebody who respects and values diversity. And the obvious question here is, how can they respect and value diversity if they cannot see it? Of course, we wish we could travel all around the world with our kids. I wonder if that will ever be possible. But again, a solution for that is bringing the world into the classroom. A global citizen is somebody who has an understanding of how the world works. And we need to show them that. A global citizen is somebody who participates actively in the community at a range of levels, from the local to the global. And this has implications for us educators, engaging our children in being concerned about problems and issues, and actually see themselves as potential problem solvers. I think it's really very important. And last but not least, a global citizen is going to be somebody willing and totally interested in making this world a better place to live in. I don't know if you have noticed it, but I think we definitely have a much more activist generation. And as an educator, if they are not happy with the place where they are living, I encourage them to try to do something about it, okay? So having defined global citizenship and the profile of a global citizen, the other conclusion we reach is that to be effective global citizens, our young children need to be flexible, they need definitely to be creative, they need to be problem solvers, they need to be critical thinkers, they need to be effective communicators, they need to be decision makers. And this is exactly the kind of education I am passionate about, because I understand our children as the leaders of the future. So having said this, let us keep moving. And I was mentioning a couple of minutes ago how important it is that we see content as the propeller of language. And the truth is that in the world, we rely on each other, all right? No man is an island, no country is an island. We are all interconnected and we rely on each other. We rely on each other for trade, for political stability. We rely on each other for resources, for sustainability, protection, innovation, peace, communication, health, energy, and so much more. So if these are the topics that keep us interconnected, my invitation today has to do with bringing that type of topics into the classroom, that being the content acting as a propeller for language. So why does it matter? Well, actually, I think that our children are entitled. It is their right to actually receive the kind of education that will give them everything they need, knowledge, skills, and values, so that they have opportunities and they are ready to thrive with whatever challenges they encounter once they go out of our classrooms. I really believe in our very critical role, my dear teachers, in helping them and giving them the tools they need to create the kind of world they want to live in. So if this is their right, if this is what they are entitled to, let us explore together what this is exactly about. So to foster global citizenship, we definitely need to consider three domains: the domain of knowledge, the one of skills, and the one of values, right? So we really need to include in our classes everything that has to do with all aspects of the world. We definitely need to develop the skills and competencies that they need to thrive in the world. Absolutely, we need to work on values, the values that will empower them and make them, as I mentioned before, leaders of their future, the leaders of a world that definitely needs a change. So, okay, Luciana, you're probably wondering, meaningful connections through world exploration, how do we do that? If I have, and I hope I have, somehow convinced you, or if you were convinced before about the importance of all this, the question that remains now is, how do we actually include all this in our classes? Through what type of activities? How can we bring global citizenship education, of course, without forgetting that we have a language syllabus to comply with. I'm not saying, under no circumstances am I saying that we have to forget about the simple present, the present continuous, and the adjectives. Of course, that's the language they will need. But what I'm talking about is bringing the content to be the perfect excuse for the teaching of that language. So let us exactly see what global citizenship education looks like in the language classroom. Okay, here we go. So the first thing I think we all really need to reflect upon is the materials that we are using. And I started learning English back in the 80s. I always mention that. And the truth is that I mention it because I was learning English in a completely different moment of the world. Probably many of you were not even part of this world. This is because I've got my years already, okay? Now, but I want to tell you that even back in the 80s, when all my course books were monocultural, because that was the kind of world where we lived. You learned English and you learned the culture of the English speaking countries. Back in the 80s, Prodromo asked a couple of questions which were so relevant that they are still relevant today. So if we are language teachers, and today we are reflecting upon the importance of becoming global citizenship teachers, These are questions that, although they were asked in the 80s, they are absolutely relevant today. Let's check on them. The first question says, what cultural content does the book that you are using, in case you use a book, contain? Is the cultural content target? Is it local? Or is it global? And the other question that comes together with this question is, how is this cultural content presented? As you probably very well know, some course books and materials for the teaching of English, they might be target. This means that they will present cultural content related to English-speaking countries. It might be local, teaching English to address local reality of our students, or it might be global. So start asking yourselves, what cultural content are you bringing into the classroom and how is it presented? A very important first question to ask. Does the book or do the materials that you are using have an international feel or look, or do they focus on just a particular context? That's another very important question to ask, this question of an international look. And I don't know how aware you're of this, but latest research, researchers in the field of ELT are asking over and over again, are all our students in the materials we are using? Are all our students included in the materials we are using? Can they all see themselves in the materials we are using? A very important question to ask. And last but not least, another very important question here is, does the material that I am using in my classroom address real world issues, or does it deal with the trivial and or stereotypes? And I think, I don't know if you agree with me, these questions were asked in the 80s to question the materials being used so many years ago, but I still believe they are so relevant. And I think and invite you again to ask yourselves, what type of materials are you using if you are really interested in bringing global citizenship education into your classes? So what does global citizenship education look like in the classroom? Okay, I'm convinced, I know it matters, I know it's important. How can I go for this as a language teacher? And the truth is that the first thing we have to consider is this question of the content, local content. Once I read, I don't even remember where, because this is what happens when you have so much access to information, that the new illiterate of the 21st century is that person who remains local. Powerful, right? So local topics, remember, topics that will allow our students to relate personally from the reality they know and will encourage them to learn about the same topic from a reality they don't know. And even though they might stay in their reality, they will develop an understanding of the reality of others. How relevant is that? Really very important. It has always been important in the language classroom that we bring topics considering the age of our students so that they can relate personally to those topics. Personalizing the content is absolutely crucial. What other thing can we do as language teachers? We can bring essential questions or big questions, those questions that have a variety of answers. We usually call them divergent questions or open questions, because students will answer the question depending on what background knowledge they have. But the fantastic thing about bringing these big questions is that you can get such a good answer as, I don't know. Because when I don't know, I want to learn. And definitely, the best way of addressing global citizenship education is by bringing the world into the classroom. So I'm going to show you some clear examples of how we can do this. And we are going to move now to the practical part of this presentation. What does global citizenship education look like in our classroom? Well, definitely when we bring structured discussion and debate. One of the things that we language teachers need to understand is that it is through discussion and debate that we are already promoting or encouraging our students to move from their own reality to the reality of others. Role playing, but I'm not talking about that role play that I used to hate when I was a learner of English myself. I'm talking about trying to be in the shoes of, or what would you say if you were in the following situation? Of course, a situation that is relevant and I am ready to actually pretend to be in. Bringing diversity of identities and cultures, bringing other cultures, other people, places, bringing other realities to the classroom through video, through texts, through photographs. Definitely enhancing critical thinking, which has to do with giving opinions, expressing thoughts, agreeing, disagreeing, making inferences. Activities such as ranking exercises, where you encourage students to try to, for example, decide from a list of whatever, what is more important or less important, or if they had to rank them according to how relevant they are, they have to number them. I usually love ranking exercises because behind a ranking exercise, there's a set of beliefs, assumptions to actually discuss. And definitely bringing into the classroom very many opportunities for students to express and value not only their own opinions, but the opinions of others. One of the things that I usually get from colleagues when I talk about this is, Luciana, but we are talking about young children, and I don't know if they've got the language to be able to do this. I don't know if they are cognitively ready for this. And the truth is that they are, and that they can be taught, and that is also part of being a global citizenship education teacher, providing them with the tools to be critical thinkers and the tools to be effective communicators. And definitely something that has been a myth for years, allowing students to use their mother tongue if they have the desire to express themselves, and then giving them the English for that. I remember in my times, if you wanted to say something, if the teacher had finally ignited you through the content and you wanted to say something you didn't have the English for, the teacher would tell me not to say it. I am encouraging you to do exactly the opposite. If you have already ignited them and they are interested in the topic and they say something in their mother tongue, what you can definitely do is provide them with the English for that, because what you are doing is creating the need, making them notice that they have to learn certain words and structures to be able to say exactly what they want to say in their target language. So let us move now to the last section of my presentation today, which are finally the practical ideas and activities to encourage meaningful connections through world exploration. All right. Of course, I'm going to give you just a few ideas, which I hope you find interesting, and that you are really willing to adopt and adapt. And of course, by the end of the presentation, I'm going to share my email address, not only to share my presentation if you're interested in having it, but also to guide you through other types of activities and classroom ideas to develop meaningful connections. So speaking to you today on behalf of National Geographic Learning, and if you have had the possibility to browse any of our materials, you will probably have noticed that one of the fantastic things about National Geographic Learning materials is that they look like National Geographic magazines. And usually I always ask people, when I say National Geographic, what comes to your mind? And people say, well, what comes to my mind happens to be animals and people and history and places and civilizations. And I remember once reading about National Geographic. National Geographic defines itself as the world and everything in it. How fantastic is that? So one of the characteristics of our materials is that there is stunning photography. Photographs have always been part of the language classroom, but I'm talking about now the power of photographs to show aspects of the world we would never see unless we travel or go to places like the ones you got here on the screen. Photographs actually provide a fantastic and engaging way to inspire our students to consider the experiences of others. And of course, they can be used as a starter activity. We can use them to encourage deeper thinking, and definitely as the opener, okay, for the discussion of a local topic. So I just want you to see a couple of fantastic photographs, all right? And these are the kind of very inviting visuals that I am talking about, okay? Bringing these fantastic photographs as windows to the world. What if we show our children other people and the clothes they wear? What if we show them other neighborhoods? What if we show them other hands? What if we show them animals? Maybe animals they've never seen before. What if? Do you think they would be interested? I've seen this happening. I've seen the magic of powerful photographs. Images are excellent with something that I'm also passionate about, which is called philosophy for children. I love inquiry-based learning. I love giving children the time to look at photographs, discuss the photographs, and definitely not only engage them in slow looking, but also taking them beyond the literal, the surface of the photograph. There is a fantastic routine that I will, of course, encourage you to try with your children, which is called I See, I Think, I Wonder. We language teachers have been using visuals for years, but something we need to also confess is that most of the time we encourage our children to describe what they see. There's nothing wrong with that, but if we only encourage them to describe what they can see, we are only giving them the opportunity to use what language function? The function of description. Whereas if you use a routine like this one, what do you see? And what do you think about what you see? We are already inviting them to make connections, to make inferences, to make predictions, opening up the scope of language functions, and definitely encouraging them to wonder. So you can say, look at those children. I wonder where they live. I wonder why they are running. Look at those hands. They are not like my hands. I wonder whose hands they are and why they are so colorful. Look at that girl. Are those the clothes she wears every day, or is she ready for a special occasion? So engaging children in this philosophy-like discussions opens up the possibility for so much vocabulary and grammar teaching. What if for a unit on a topic we have always taught children, such as parts of the house, what if we started with a visual like this one? And apart from asking them, what can you see? For which the answer would be a house, you know? What can you see? You know what I did when giving this class with children? Before opening our books and checking on this photograph, I asked them if they knew what a tree house was. And they said, oh, yes, I know what a tree house is. And many of them even said that they have tree houses at home. Wow, fantastic. And then I said, would you live on a tree house? And many of the children said, no, because it's too small and uncomfortable. And then I showed them this, and then they said, oh, but this is another tree house. I would live in this tree house. So what if, apart from asking them only, what can you see, we ask them, would you like to live in a house like this one? Why? Why not? What do you think? How big do you think this house is? Who might live in a house like this one? All right. And I even use another very nice technique called getting the photograph. And I always tell them, imagine that you are there. Tell me what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste. Engaging our children, making use of all the senses. What if we work like this, inviting our children to think about images? And the fantastic thing is that when you work through inquiry and when you ask these big questions, we can see so much more. And what do I mean by this? What we bring into the classroom, what our children bring into the classroom, can be seen more clearly when we allow them to explore and explain, when we ask questions that are thought-provoking. So usually, like an iceberg, there are certain characteristics about ourselves and others that we can see, and others that we do not see that clearly. This is what culture is. And culture is there practically helping us judge, decide, agree, disagree. Culture is so important to each and every of us. And it is so important to become aware of the culture of others too. So what if we brought, of course, the culture of others? What if, to learn the parts of the neighborhood, we started with a unit opener showing them a town in Japan, in Japan. And we show them other kids, other neighborhoods. What if, to talk about clothes, another typical topic for children, we started with the clothes being worn by a girl in Thailand? What if, to teach them vocabulary related to toys, we started by showing them toys in other places in the world? What if, to teach them vocabulary related to school, we started off by showing them a school in another part of the world? And what if, to teach them vocabulary related to family members, we got started by showing them a family in another part of the world? And of course, they will have to learn the same vocabulary we have historically been teaching them. But now we are presenting it through a more worldwide perspective. And what if, this is another very important thing to bear in mind, what if we engaged our children in projects? One of the good things that we can do to actually bring the world to the classroom is, for example, invite our children to go on school trips, imaginary school trips. So, for example, here in this school trip section, students will have the possibility to travel to Africa and see the animals in the savannah. So they will be watching a video, a true video, authentic material of the savannah in Africa. And as a response to the video, of course, then the children can engage in a personal project. For those who are familiar with project-based learning, you know that that's the spirit. You are so engaged in the content that you end up producing something in response to everything you've learned. And what if, apart from bringing authentic places, authentic topics, we also bring authentic people? Part of global citizenship education has to do with inspiring our children. What if we feature people who are already doing wonderful things for the world? What if we show them that other people started being concerned about a global topic and they started doing something locally? Or what if they start learning about people who started doing something from their local reality which had an impact on the world? What if we inspire them that way? How fantastic is that? What if, and this is what I meant by project-based learning, what if we ask big questions such as, where does water come from? Do you know what some children in Buenos Aires answered to this question? From the tap. Of course, it's their reality. It's their local reality. For them, water comes from the tap. But what if in the same book unit, I encourage them to see the reality of other children for whom water does not come from the tap? And in this case, they will be reading about play pumps, children who have to play, and as they play, they pump up the water because they don't get the water from the tap. What if in that very same unit, by the end of the project, I encourage them to go from a global problem as water is to what they can do from their local reality as a contribution to that big problem? What if? Will they need grammar and vocabulary for all this? Definitely yes. What if we work on values? The values of a global citizen. What if we bring the world into the classroom also through literature? Stories from different parts of the world. Readers that the children will have to read in the target language, in English, but they will be learning about the world. And from reading, they will be making connections between their own worlds and the worlds of others. I'm just asking, what if? And to conclude, because I would like to give you a couple of minutes to share your views or questions, I know what you're thinking. Luciana, this looks exciting, but what about language? Language is the verbalization of our thinking. So we need to promote thinking. Language is propelled by the need to express ourselves about something that we are interested in. And you know what? According to research, these are the language functions widely used by people in every language. Every day we ask for and give information. Every day we ask for and give opinion. Every day we express ideas, beliefs, and thoughts. Every day we talk about ourselves and others. We tell, we retell, we narrate, we describe. Every day we agree, disagree, discuss, exchange ideas, and every day we make interpretations, inferences, and conclusions. So if this is what we do with language in the real world, why not encourage this to happen in the classroom? And just take it like this. If you unwrap each and every of these language functions, you know what's inside? Vocabulary and grammar. So vocabulary and grammar will become meaningful and necessary just because I have something to say with reference to the content. My dear colleagues, I really, really hope you have found this useful, that it has kept you thinking. I would like you to, of course, write to me. You've got my email address on the screen. It's fernandezluve@yahoo.com. I invite you to write to me if you want me to share this presentation with you, if you have any comments or questions, or if you would like me to share with you any other tip or material that might help you in your practice.